Welcome to Woodshed Z. My name is Oskar Zybart, and if you've never tuned into the show before, please consider subscribing. It'll keep you up to date with new activities as they happen, and as this is a mid-season program, those updates are less consistent than they would otherwise be, so subscribing is a good idea to keep you posted when new things do happen. And for those of you who have watched the program before, it might be saying, hang on a minute, this doesn't look exactly as I remember it. Well, you're not wrong. The room where I normally film my videos is currently occupied. We're tracking a band for recording purposes in there right now, so there's no room to set up all the different tripods that I need to make this happen when I film these on my own. So we're set up in a different area of the bibliothèque where all of the books and print media are located, so hopefully it gets the job done. If nothing else, we've got a lot of nice light diffusing through the windows here, which will hopefully make for an attractive video, or as attractive as a video that has me in it can be. This week we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We're doing a 3-amp 2-cabinet shootout, and I'll explain a little bit more in a sec, but this is basically a Fender Bassbreaker 45 versus a Vox AC50 versus a Marshall JCM 900, and more on why we're comparing those two in a moment. So why are we doing this shootout? Well, for those of you who caught the first 10 or so episodes of Woodshed Z, you might have noticed that there was a Marshall amplifier that appeared in most of those films, but which vanished rather suddenly and hasn't returned. Well, the reason for that is that that was my first good amplifier. I've played that thing to death for a good 20 years, and I never had any problems with it up until about episode 10 of Woodshed Z. And so I took it in for servicing, and the repair work and parts took longer than anticipated to get completed. So I've only just gotten it back recently. And in the meantime, in order to finish the rest of the first season, I was using my Vox AC50 as a substitute amp because both of them have EL34 tubes and are roughly 50 watts in power. So it's kind of an equivalent format, even though the character of both amps is not the same. So I've been using both of them for the series thus far, but neither one really does what I was hoping it would do for the purposes of the series, which was to represent Marshall tonality in the classic sense, like a 60s or 70s Marshall. And so I was looking around and trying to find a good a third option is maybe a best way to put it. And I've heard great things about the Fender Bassbreaker series, and for those who are unfamiliar with those, there are 4 or 5 different amps in that series, but the only one that would have been applicable under these circumstances was the 45. So what we're doing here is comparing the 3 heads of Bassbreaker 45, JCM 900, and AC50 CPH, I think is the designation for that one, and comparing them into 2 closed-back 412 cabinets, one by Marshall and one by Vox, to see what are the different characteristics of these amps. Now, it's not an entirely fair, even across-the-board comparison because one amp has power scaling when the other ones don't. One of them is voiced differently on the 2 channels. The other one is voiced the same on the 2 channels, just with different master volume controls. So it's not an entirely fair fight, but it gives you an idea of the character of the amps, and what we're doing is running them all roughly at the same EQ settings, roughly at the same gain settings, and in some cases with a tube screamer in front just to drive the amp a little bit harder, with a variety of different guitars to see how do they click, how do they tick, what makes them sound the way they do, and which one is a good fit for me going forward. And so I hope you enjoy. We'll see what happens with this, but this special first installment of the mid-season episodes of Woodshed Z, comparing 3 different EL34 tube amplifier heads. Check it out. already 3 different high headroom, high watt tube amplifiers. Not a high watt tube amplifier though. We had a Bassbreaker 45 from Fender, a JCM 900 from Marshall, and a Vox AC50 CPH. They're running into both a 412 closed back Marshall cabinet and a 412 closed back Vox cabinet here to show you some different tonalities, different sounds with a few different guitars, some new additions to the lineup, and a bit of something different this week. We don't have a sponsor for this episode, so this is just me bringing some fun new things to you, and just so I've got a reference for myself so I can compare objectively while I'm not busy playing to see what sounds good, what I think is going to be a good fit going forward. But I think that, if nothing else, it's nice to have options, and we definitely have options here on WoodshedZ. So thank you very much for watching. As I said, please consider subscribing if you haven't already done so. I'm hoping to do more such videos going forward, and we'll see what Season 2 holds. I think there's going to be a few more mid-season episodes, if nothing else, one-offs to come before then. So until we meet again, thank you for watching. Until next time, cheers.